Welcome back, YouTube family and friends. It's your boy, MastermindX. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, what's going on here? X, where's the Legos? Well, as we've been hitting through the last couple videos, we're transitioning the channel a little bit into something different for the new year. And Happy New Year to all you folks out there. And I hope you guys had a great holiday as well. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to move into a couple of video series exploring the world of culinary arts. Now, I know what you're saying. MastermindX, you're a Lego guy. You know a lot about Star Wars. You know a lot about bricks. What makes you qualified to be telling me about culinary arts and cooking? Well, funny fact about me is I actually have my first degree when I went to college in culinary arts. I actually have worked my way through different restaurants, all the way from an Applebee's to fine dining cuisine, from Mediterranean seafoods, Italian family style meals, and more. So I figured I'd lend my personal experiences, some tips and tricks, and some of my favorite recipes to you. So that's the reason why we can do this, because before I'd let you know that, I would understand your hesitation. It's not like I would trust Mr. Beast, we'll say, to perform open heart surgery on me, or even Ninja to do my taxes. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. I'll show you how the video format's gonna be. We're gonna do a lot of zoom in shots so that you can see what we're actually doing, the techniques, so you can learn it for yourself. The way the series is gonna work, and I'll be able to make sure that you know in case you're not catching this very first series video. In H1, we'll let you know how this works, is we're gonna get through some of the basics. In other words, today we're gonna talk about knife skills, doing a little chopping, and then we're gonna get into other things such as, you know, different kitchen appliances that might be funky. Then we're gonna get into tips and tricks, little things that I've picked up along the way that'll make your life easier in the kitchen, impress your husband and or wife out there. And then we're gonna get in lastly, and what the series shall continue with, is different recipes and cooking them, trying them out. Maybe we can get Mrs. MastermindX in here to give us a little taste test and see how she likes it. So, let's do it! Alright guys, let's get into it. So, first things first, what I want to talk about to you is safety. With any type of cooking or food preparation, the number one key thing is to wash your hands. So I did wash my hands, as we're going to be dealing with some vegetables, some knives and things like that today. And the best way to wash your hands, the way it was always explained to me, is to say the ABCs as you're washing it. That way you're doing it right and you're not spreading any germs. Foodborne illnesses are no joke, and we don't want to give that to anybody. So the old saying is, make sure to say your prayers and wash your hands, because Jesus and germs are everywhere. Alright. Second off, you'll see that I'm using a silicone mat. Any type of cutting board works as well, but you always want to make sure that your mat is always secured. Anything that slips can slip off a finger. So we definitely want to make sure that you can use one of these silicone mats. If you have a traditional cutting board, another trick is you can place a dampened or wet paper towel down first, the cutting board on top of that, and it won't move. Alright, so the basics. You'll kind of see that I have two different sections of knives here. And the reason is I think that any home chef or inspiring cook is going to need one set of basic knives, and then you can expand out. And these 6 knives, I would say, can complete anybody's set to basically do any type of standardized cooking. You can do it with these 3. The other 3 additional ones are just for specialty items, and we can go into those. So the big old bad guy is a chef's knife. Everybody knows this one. This is the standard chef's knife. This is an 8-inch Calphalon. It is a full-tanged knife, which means that the blade of the knife goes all the way through the handle. It is one piece of steel. The reason I like and suggest people to get a full-tanged knife is the equal weight distribution. You can actually see that the bigger part of the knife is not actually heavier than the other side because of the weight of the steel and thickness through the other side. So that's our first guy, the chef's knife. The second knife that I recommend in any home chef's kit is the serrated knife. You can see the scalloped edge is what it's called onto the serration there. Helps to cut anything from breads or anything that's going to be salted that's going to need more of a sawing motion instead of a chop or slice. Serrated. And our last, a lot of people will call this a utility knife or just a small knife. This is traditionally known as a paring knife. A paring knife is good for anything such as, a curve and cut, a peel, something small, an all-around utility knife. A good paring knife will round out any good chef's kit. Now, moving on to our 3 specialty knives is what I guess we're going to call them here. Our very first one, and very popular, a lot of people are starting to get these in sets and seeing it on TV, is called a santuko. Santuko is actually, I believe, Japanese for 3 virtues. And I believe the reason they call this 3 virtues is because, we'll go into this a little further, is the shape of the knife. So this is the santuko. The second, this is a boning knife. A boning knife is great for either filleting a fish or cutting around a chicken bone or any type of meat actually that has a bone. It has a very sharp blade but also a pointed end so that you can get in or around anything that you're trying to carve. The last is a carving knife or a slicer. This is an 8-inch slicer. You'll notice that it is very long and very thin. This is so that you can do long pulls and not make a sawing motion, but more of a slice. This gives meat the texture, once you're slicing them, of being very flat and sheen, so that you don't get jagged edges. It is a 1 motion forward, 1 motion back. It's not a saw, it's a slice. So those are those 3 here. So let me get this all cleaned up here and we'll get into the next section. Okay guys, so talking about our chef's knife. So this again is an 8-inch chef knife. This is going to be your go-to in the kitchen. This can perform any task, large or small, and I'm going to show you with some of these vegetables here. Okay, before we move on, the reason I wanted to bring back the santuko as well, so that we can demonstrate what these knives are, how to hold them, and the differences between them. So with the trusty chef's knife, like the very first thing that you're going to want to do is know how to hold this. I was always taught, and the best way to get balance to that knife is you're going to pinch the knife this way here and then wrap your fingers around so that you have a standard grip onto the knife. A little loose, but not too firm, and this is a nice grip. Now, as you can see, and I'll try and get this as nice and close as possible so you can see here, this knife has a curve onto it. There is not a solid plane axis, it is curved. And the reason for this is so that the knife can rock. It's almost like a wave going in and out, if you want to think about it that way. And the reason for this is so that you can make nice motions onto the knife. When you do this, it allows the food to slip off of the knife and you to move on to the next place that you're going to cut. The santuko, on the other hand, is a little flatter. Now, the santuko does have an edge at the bottom, and that is for a little bit of that rolling technique. But it also, like I said, it's known as the 3 virtues, and I think it's for this reason. With the flat part, it does allow for a chopping motion, in case you want to chop an herb on the flat. And then it is a wider based knife. It's almost as wide as our chef's knife, at being only 5 inches. Now they do make these santukos in much more different sizes. So being that it's larger like this, this can chop through a larger piece of meat, so it can be used more as a hack and cleave, and or a garlic crusher if you need to crush or press something. So you just got 3 notions out of the santuko. Alright, moving this guy to the side, we're gonna get going with our chef's knife. And the very first thing I think we should do, and why I got us some carrots here, because A, they're inexpensive, we can play around with them, and it doesn't hurt anything. So, speaking of not hurting anything, I am left-handed, as if you noticed. The right hand is your guide hand. The guide hand is the danger hand, the thing that you don't want to lose a finger on. So a lot of people will always have, you'll see them with their hand on the board, the hand holding the vegetable. what we're actually going to show you, and the best way to do this, is to make a pincher, like a crab, and curl like a claw, so that your knuckles are exposed and your fingers are back. This gives a guide for the blade to touch onto your knuckles and slide so that a finger is never in danger. Don't forget your thumb as well. The thumb is always back. So doing this, I can actually guide how big I want the spaces of the chop to be. And I'm always in control of both the fruit, vegetable object that I'm cutting and the knife. So as you can see, we can do large chops, or if we move the hand very small, we can do smaller chops. It's the difference of the left hand moving, the right hand or left hand if you're this switched. The difference of the chop is all based upon the guide hand. Okay, so one of the very first things we should do is show you some chopping techniques. So carrots are very good for soups, stews, this and that, but they can also be used for garnishes and or sides. One of the greatest sides I think that comes out of a carrot is the matchstick or matchstick carrots. This is actually known in, I guess you want to call it the chefing world or however culinary arts, as a julienne. So a julienne starts with, we're going to take off our end. Okay, so the end cut is taken off, and so that we have something nice to cut on, we're going to go ahead and we're going to slice this down so that we have a flat part to cut on. So now that we have a flat part to cut on, we're going to go ahead and do 1/8 inch chops. And then we stack them all up. After we're done, you can place them in 2 stacks to make it easier. And then we do the 1/8 inch the same way. Remember, always curling the knuckles, bringing the fingers back, and starting with the tip and rolling down with the knife. I'm going extra slow for you guys just to show you the technique. And then you have matchstick carrots for cutting downward. So we'll take a few of these, and you can actually see, let's chop over towards Santugo so you can see this. This is more of a chop, curling the fingers, making sure they're in, and chopping down. And there you have now what would be considered a medium dice. Medium dice is about your little blocks. You're going to see this in soups, different dishes as an additive, but your dice is going to be little squares. Alright, the onion. So the next dice that we're going to make is in the onion, and the onion needs a couple of pieces before you can just start slicing into it. So we're going to make a few incisions this way into the onion bulb, always remembering to have the fingers back, and then we make a few incisions this way. And because the onion is ringed, we should have nice little dice squares depending on how big you want your chunks. Again, I'm using this for soup afterwards, so I kind of want them a little bigger so that they don't just dissipate in my soup. So I got a larger dice onto here, and then going down through, we should get our perfect little squares. Yeah. So there's your diced onion in all its little squares that we can then add to our soup as well. Now, with the onion, you do want to remember, we cut this one off screen in half, and then we peeled the outer, because obviously this is unedible. You want to stay away from the heart or the root of this onion as much as possible. I'm able to cut this, not cry, you know, I didn't watch an episode of This Is Us or, you know, The Notebook on camera here for you because I'm not getting too close to the root. And the reason why you don't want to get too close to the root is that is where all the enzymes and so forth that get splattered into the air and will make you cry. So, alright, lastly, we're going to take this chef knife and I'm going to show you with a potato. Now, the last thing that I do want is a little bit of a larger dice, or some people will call it a rough chop. First, a little bit of starch into the soup. So, potatoes are tricky because they're round. So, they do take a little bit of cunningness to get to them. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to take our blade and chop off one of the sides. So we can take this and do almost like an oblique cut, which just alternates. So we have that nice little oblique cut there. But now that this is cut, the starchy side of the potato can go down. With this done, we can touch either side of the potato if you're going to slice something in half or thirds, which I'm going to do with this. Always making sure that my fingers are back away from the blade. And then now that we have these planks, it's a little more manageable for us. So the process is simply the same. We're going to go ahead and take our hands, make sure they're back, and check that out. You guys, you can stop there. The best tip I can give you with potatoes is you get these puppies, take them just like this, rinse them under a little bit of water just to take a little bit of the starch out of them, and then deep fry them 350 for about 5 to 7 minutes. You're going to take them out of that water, drain them off, freeze them. Overnight's good, a couple hours, just to get them firmed up, and then put them back into the oil. A double fried French fry, homemade, goes nothing better with fish and chips than that. But that's not what we're making, so we'll continue on through. After we have that, we go crosswise. Remember to rock that blade. And then we have a large dice. So now over here we can see that we have our medium, our small, little pieces there, and then our large dice. So with these 3 cuts, mastering them in the kitchen will get you one step closer to a really good meal. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you for joining us, folks, for our introductory into the basics with knife cutting. If this was a little slow for you, I do apologize. We must start at the basics so that we build a good foundation. The next videos shall be a little bit quicker and quicker and quicker until we get to the base meat and potatoes of the series, which is different recipes and tricks and tips as we create simple things such as grilled cheeses amped up, roasts, and different types of grilled fishes, smokes, different things like that. So once again, I want to thank you for your time, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out, and we'll see you next time. Peace.